Hi, it's Jessi. I think that hi was really quiet. Hi! Enthusiastic hi. It's Jessi. Today I'm going to be reading Oathbringer Part 2. I am a first-time reader of Stormlight, and I figured I would record my thoughts as we go so I can share them all with you. Just not a lot to bring over from Part 1. Main thing is, at this point, I'm curious full book kind of interest to see how past Dalinar is reconciled with present Dalinar. And as far as immediately for Part 2, what I'm excited for is Shallan and Kaladin getting to meet, because, oh boy. Actually, also another thing I'm excited about, which I didn't mention in the last video, kind of, I think less excited and more trepidatious about Shallan and Jasnah reuniting. Because Shallan has changed a lot, and I don't know if Jasnah's gonna like it or not. I think Jasnah's gonna like it, I think. Because Jasnah seems to be the kind of person that would want the other women around her to be strong, but maybe not. Also, maybe it causes Shallan to revert a little. So I'd be very interested to see how that goes. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into that because I wanna get reading. So, see you in a little bit. If I had been smart, I would have waited to eat my dinner until, or to make my lunch until after I filmed this clip, but it's too late, so you're just gonna have to watch me eat mediocre Panera mac and cheese. That's really hot. So I am through chapter 37 of Oathbringer. I'd hold up the book for you, but you're balancing on it, so we are what we are. And then let me get my notes, and by notes I mean what I have sent in the Mortimer's Discord server. So few things, let me think. Jasnah and Kaladin met off screen and I'm mad about it. Just a little. As far as what I was concerned about with Jasnah and Shallan reuniting, I think so far that seems like it's gonna be mostly okay. Like, it definitely does seem to be showing Shallan regressing a little. Like, she's a ward now and appropriately taking that role. I hope it just doesn't push her back too far. That's really all I have to say about them. Let me touch on Dalinar and then we'll go on to Kaladin stuff because that's actually probably what I have the most thoughts on. I still don't like Dalinar. I like that more people are kind of pointing out to him his flaws, right? Like, he had that scene where he pulled the queen into a vision and she was just like, good, you're acting like you stop being something you're not, right? And I like that she like pointed out like, how can I trust you, you're past, yada yada. I like those things, but those were never the things about Dalinar I didn't like. Now don't get me wrong, past Dalinar has some things I'm very glad to hear he didn't actually murder a child. But like past Dalinar has that like same issue all Alethi have, but they just have no concern, they don't value life at all. So like there's definitely that there, although current Dalinar doesn't have that problem nearly as much. But the other issue that I have with Dalinar is just not quite arrogance. He doesn't quite have arrogance, but he's very self-righteous and he's very sanctimonious. His way is the right way. He knows what's correct and you're gonna follow what he says. And if you disagree with him, you're wrong and you must be against him, right? And most of the time, yeah, he's right, most of the time, but he's not always right, and there's just, that attitude just really bugs me. So those are the things that I have issues with him, and nothing that's happening in this book so far is really changing that element of him. We'll see how it goes, but that's kind of the issue I've had with Dalinar, and that's not changing, which is why I still don't like him. So the Kaladin thing. I really like that we're getting the Bridge 4 perspectives. I love that we got a little bit of Rock, we've gotten a little bit of Sigzil, and that we're seeing Kaladin from their perspective, because there is an element of almost hero worship that we see coming from Bridge 4, but we see in these perspectives that they know Kaladin's fallible. They know he's not perfect. You know, Sigzil sees him like, you know, dude, you're kind of an idiot sometimes. You get from Rock, like, Kaladin is somehow simultaneously the absolute worst at reading people and really good at reading people. He's kind of almost like Perrin in like late series Wheel of Time, where like he's really good at leading people, but he's really bad at actually understanding people. There were some things, let me see what I got here, what I have. Oh yeah, one of the things that is bothering me is the way Bridge 4 and the Radiant Squires, is that what the words, what they called them? Is the fact that they can heal so much now. So I mentioned it last book when Kaladin healed the Shard Blade cut. Like, I think that's too far. I think I mentioned it last book with Lopin regrowing his arm. Like, why? I'm like, there's issues here with the inconsistency of it, where like Bridge 4 can heal all their scars, regrow an arm, but Kaladin still has his slave brand. And like, my explanation for that in the past has been like, well, the slave brand's still there because it's not actually a wound anymore. It's scar tissue. It's, the wound is healed, but that's still there. But clearly that's not what the issue is. And so I'm just very confused. But I also just don't like that this is a thing. Like, magical healing is one thing, right? And I'm totally cool, whatever, magical healing. And obviously there's a limitation. Like, if you don't get Stormlight in time, you're dead. As far as I know, coming back from the dead, the only thing close to that we've gotten is Seth, which I don't really know what's going on with that, so I don't want to say this is the same thing. But it just feels like they're not invincible, but like there's something there that's just really bothering me, where it currently feels like there isn't any stakes. It's the same thing when I read Aragon. This is going somewhere, I swear. When I read the Aragon series, the Inheritance Cycle, one of the things that really bugged me was like, it seemed like they had set up like Aragon in the first book in his fight gets horribly wounded, right? And the entire second book is him trying to overcome that wound. Like, how can I go on with this wound? And then he gets magically healed. So all of that development they had done was for nothing. There's no consequence to his actions. And it feels like it's very similar to that. If you know that you can heal a wound from a shard blade, you're not going to be as cautious going against it, which I think is maybe where Sanderson's going for this, is setting it up as foreshadowing that like something is going to go wrong. And it's going to be the consequence of like, you guys thought you were invincible and you're not. But so far, it just feels like that's not the case, because you have characters, I don't remember who it was, and I would check my book if you weren't balancing on it, that had his legs, like he couldn't walk anymore. And now he can, right? Lopin regrew his arm, so this one thing that was like a character trait, and not a character trait, because I don't want to like define people by their like physical limitations, but now it's gone. And like, I also think there's something to be said, which I cannot for the life of me speak on, of like taking characters that are disabled and making them no longer disabled, which is something, a problem fantasy as a whole has had. So that's the kind of things, I just feel like we're losing consequences. And I know obviously there is going to be something that this is setting up for something to go wrong, but in the moment it's really bothering me. Kaladin's an idiot and doesn't know women, it really bothers me. Rock's family showed up, that's super cute. Drahe has a boyfriend. That one made me so happy. I might have actually like squealed aloud when I was listening to the book and that part came up, because I was just like, oh, thank you Sanderson for including one canonically gay guy. We're going with it. Yeah, so I think that's kind of it for now. When I get in the rhythm of this book, I really like it. It's just one of those things with like, and it was the same thing with every other book. Sanderson has these things where like, he has a style where it's like, I read it and I either read 100 pages at once or I don't read for a week. And I'm trying to not fall into that. After, you know, the really long hiatus in the middle of part 1. But that's it for now. I'm gonna eat my lunch and I will update you guys soon. Excuse me. In an attempt to be maybe vaguely a real booktuber, I'm in front of my bookshelf. Anyway, so I haven't read that much more. I've read like 3 chapters more. I'm on finished chapter, he's sick. I finished chapter 40, so it's been like some pages, but I wanted to update because what's happened has been interesting. So I think maybe for this vlog video diary, I'll try to update more frequently with shorter updates. I think this is going to backfire and I'm almost definitely going to end up with more updates that are each equally long. But anyway, but Shallan's been up to some interesting things. I don't know, Dalinar taking Yasna into Yasna and Navani into his vision is neat. They like saw where those shards were left, and now they want to track down. They want to. Sorry, I just keep laughing at it, and we'll get to that. They want to track down the heralds now. So we had that meeting with all of them. Finally got that confrontation between Yasna and Kaladin that I was waiting for, where Kaladin's like, we need to find them and protect them, and Yasna's like, we need to find them and kill them, because that's how this ends, right? Bless. I've been waiting for that, like, since Yasna was coming back. Like, the idea that it's just, they're so ideologically opposed, and I love it. But Shallan, on the other hand, is being pushed backwards a lot by Yasna. And I think it's creating this divide between her altars, I guess. I don't know if I want to use that word. I don't know if it's the appropriate word to use. But between her different aspects, wherein Shallan is being pushed backwards by Yasna. She's being pushed back into this ward role, which, now that we're seeing her from a different perspective, honestly, I think she has been shirking her duties. Clearly, I don't think she needs to be a scribe necessarily, but she does need to pay attention at meetings and maybe participate in the decision making, or at least be aware of the decisions being made. So in that aspect, I'm glad she's doing that, but it's creating this divide where Vale is starting to resent Shallan because Shallan is not Vale, except Shallan is Vale. So that's weird, and I don't know how I feel about that, because it's going to create a rift between them, and that's concerning to me. Also on that note is, I wonder if her group, she has this group of mercenaries, you know, Gaz and them, if they're going to start getting her abilities the way that Bridge 4 starts getting Cal's abilities. Because that'd be really interesting to see. Especially insofar as, like, Vale is spending a lot of time around them. Shallan isn't necessarily doing that, but Vale is. It's kind of become her escape to go hang out with the thugs. Which is great. And then also her choice to have this woman train them, questionable. I think it's a brilliant move on one perspective, because it is a way for her to learn more. It's a way to get these guys trained. It's something for them to do. On the other hand, she is going to get in trouble throwing this ghost blood thing around. Like, this guy is only going to have patience for her for so long. Also, we got some information about the Ghost Bloods and the different shadow organizations. So you had one that, like, wanted to bring about the desolation, one that, like, wants to revive the gods. It's interesting. I don't know. I kind of feel like I should be more interested in that than I am, but I'm kind of mad on it. Anyway, I will keep reading, and I have a feeling that clip was just as long as all my other clips. And we'll see where I decide to update you again, because I think updating by just like, I have things to say, and filming is maybe going better than trying to remember everything I want to say when I film. So that's where I'm at. Kind of a weird angle, but we're gonna go with it while I make my lunch. I just finished chapter 44. And I'm not sure how many pages that is, because that's not how I've been doing things. So let me start with Shallan, because I have the most immediate thoughts about her, because I just had a Shallan chapter. She breaks my heart. The conflict Shallan herself is having, we can get to her fracturing. I think I used the word fracturing in one of my early ones, and I think it's very apt descriptor of what she's going through. She is, one, she's starting to rely on Vale a lot more. She's retreating into that personality a lot more. But also she's kind of falling apart at the seams, right? Where she's like, well, she's compartmentalizing, but to the extreme, where it's like, Shallan can't handle anything anymore, so we'll create somebody else to do that. But her struggles with being like a scribe, with being an academic, with studying, are so relatable to me. And I think it's been a long time since I've related so heavily to a character as I do to Shallan. The whole kind of small, you know, she was a big fish in a small pond, but now she's in a big pond kind of idea. Like, I felt that so heavily when I went to college. And I kind of went through it. Like, I think I kind of kept up my passion through college, through undergrad.
I was still excited to learn for the most part, but like grad school, I felt that way, where I'm losing that passion and that excitement for learning that I used to have. Like in high school, middle school, it was just, I would absorb anything like a sponge, and that's kind of faded over time. And I think some of it is just natural. I think some of it is greater responsibilities, but like in general, just that issue that she has been having is something that I really connect to. And so like that, I just really sympathize with her. And I don't know that she's handling it the best. She's definitely trying to shirk responsibility, but I also understand why. So it's just kind of a frustrating thing to watch happen, because I understand why it's happening, you know? And that's just so frustrating because, you know, it's the gifted student struggle. Should I have a second one? Should I make two? I'm gonna make two. And that's exactly what she's dealing with, and I get it. But also the fact that she's retreating into Vale, but then her buddies, her mercenaries there, getting trained to be spies, are very similar to her, like, memory dealio, right? So I definitely wonder if they're gonna start becoming her squires, which I've mentioned before, but I can definitely see now the like direct correlation that could possibly happen insofar as now they are being trained with their memories. So that's definitely, to me, interesting. So that's Shallan. Shallan I still find interesting. Yasna is, I don't know, I would not use the terminology Josh used to describe her. I think maybe I'm regretting getting more of her. I wanted more of her because I really like her, but now the elements where she's very similar to Dalinar are starting to come out more. And I am not enjoying that quite as much because, well, I don't like Dalinar. But like, she also has very much that I'm right, follow my way kind of attitude about her. Which, to just fully admit the like double standard I have, it annoys me more in a man than it does in a woman, but that's because every man is that way. But then the other thing, but like, she's also willing to admit her faults. Like, she knows her shortcomings in a way that I don't think Dalinar acknowledges. Like, and I think that's the difference between them, in my opinion. The other thing is the other thing. So Dalinar, it's interesting because we're learning more about the Alethi culture, and Dalinar's history himself is very much similar to the issues he's having with the Alethi history. So the Alethi have this horrible history of conquering and destroying and murdering and things, and so does the Blackthorn. And so that kind of, we're seeing that the history of the Alethi mirrored in Dalinar as far as like the same issues he's having with getting people to trust him kind of, ooh, that got loud, kind of apply to the Alethi as a whole. Note to self, if you want to make a grilled cheese with cream cheese, get the blocks. Because otherwise I just end up with a hand covered in butter. Anyway, so that's been interesting, but he's just not willing to admit that the Alethi are wrong in ways that don't apply to him. Like, he's meeting with the Azish Emperor, poor kid, bless his heart. And one of the first things this Emperor says is kind of that the Azish are, or not the Azish, the Alethi are kind of barbaric. And Dalinar just immediately rejects that idea. You know? We're the height of culture, blah, blah, blah. It's so centered, you know? And I get that some of that is just the Alethi attitude, but Dalinar just personifies that so much. Sorry, I'm cutting my sandwich in half. And so ultimately, I think that's what my issue is with him. He's just, there was like a lot of growth that happened with him before the series, and it seems like he's frozen and doesn't want to grow anymore. Lift showed up. Not a fan of Lift still. I think she's kind of annoying still. Like, I'm not, how do I put this? I like kid characters normally. I just think she doesn't fit. Like, she just seems out of place here, which maybe that's the point. I don't know. And I like that she stomps the Stormlord. Stormfather. I don't like him either. Oh, look at that. It's so good. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Hot. Hot. Molten cream cheese. And so the two other perspectives we've had, we got one from Moash. Bless his heart. I don't really have anything else to say. Bless the poor kid. He really did what he thought was right. I think that's the thing that's so frustrating to me. And I'm hoping we'll see this come around in something and that we'll get kind of a redemption for him. Because he really did do what he thought was right. In a way that, like, Dalinar was just, or not Dalinar, Kaladin was just trying to do what he thought was right. But from whatever subjective criteria is being used, Kaladin was right and Moash was wrong, and I don't think that's fair. So I'm really hoping we'll see him come back around and we'll see more from him, which the perspectives would certainly indicate. And then we had a Taft perspective. Poor guy. I'm curious about him now in a way I really hadn't been before. And we'll see how Sanderson handles addiction. That's it for now. I'll update you more later. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of a weird angle, but we're gonna go with it. You're on a slant. It's fine. I am at chapter 48. And I'm excited to see what it's gonna be. But chapter 48. And I read this all before bed, and I swear I had a lot of really interesting thoughts when I went to bed last night, and I don't remember them. The fact that, like, Dalinar doesn't want to change or doesn't want to admit fault when presented with it. Like, he still believes in Alethi superiority, even though, like, he himself was criticizing it before. It's weird. More with Vale. Yeah, okay, but the training was after. Yeah, so they're training, it's the whole thing. And then Shallan having to do things is she's trying to, like, divert. No, we definitely talked about this. What the heck? Oh yeah, it was the one with Renarin. Was that the, no, this is new. Okay. Yeah, and then Shallan had her meeting with, like, with the scribes. Renarin was there. I love Renarin. I love the fact that he just boldly is like, I'm a dude. I want to be a dude. I don't want to be an Ardent, but I want to do these feminine things. And then Dalinar supporting him in that, really cute. But also Shallan is concerning. And the fact that she, like, is trying to avoid Yasna rather than dealing with her stuff worries me. I mean, that's pretty par for the course for her, though. More stuff from Moash. She's with the slaves of the Parshendi now, and there was a lot of really interesting stuff there, and that the Light Eyes are still being elevated, but it's I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. And then Scar, bless his heart. I think that was the last bit I read before bed. And then there was a Yasna perspective. Yeah, Scar, bless his heart. But he can do it now. He absorbs Stormlight. It's cute. And I think it implies there in some way, in order to, at least for a Windrunner, there was an element of being true to yourself or embracing yourself, I think is maybe what happened, because it was when he was, like, comfortable and confident and didn't feel he needed to be a Windrunner that he became one. And that kind of goes back to the things he was saying about Kaladin did it when he wasn't trying to do it. And when he started trying to do it, it became harder. Anyway, that was really cute. And then we got a Yasna perspective, which was, it's a lot of information and it's really interesting. Ivory is just fascinating. There's something about him. We definitely got confirmation that there are 10 orders. I think I knew that already. And that she's kind of unsure about Shallan herself. And I don't know what I'm gonna think about that dynamic going forward. It's just, I don't know. I'm not confident in it at all. But that's where I'm at for now. I'm gonna be putting it down for a little bit for Queer Blackathon. Yeah. So it'll be a little bit before my next update, but that doesn't matter to you because you get these all at the same time. Anyway, I will update you later. Ben and I are on our way to JordanCon. So the rest of this reading diary and probably the next one, we'll see, are gonna be a little weird. Intentionally. But I did finish part 1. I'm in the middle of the interludes. I'll get to the interludes, but let me just quickly give you thoughts. I'll give you thoughts later on part 1, but on the end of part, whatever part I'm on, but it's been interesting. Okay, Oathbringer. So like I was saying in the car, we read a lot on the way to JordanCon. I'm really dating these podcasts and how long it takes me to get them out. This is where we're at currently. I'm not going to show you where this is, but this is where we're currently at. So part 2, I'm gonna just in this clip talk through end of part 2. So whatever chapter part 2 ends on. If you give me a minute, I'll get this up and I'll tell you. Was it part 2? Am I getting my parts mixed up? What part is this on? Yeah, part 2. So through chapter 6, 59, 58? Through chapter 57. And I'll do the interludes later. But so, I took notes. So these are by character, just notes that I took for this entire section. So it's a little bit random, it's a little bit chaotic. We're just gonna go because I don't want a spoiler based on thoughts later. So for Dalinar's past in this section, I thought Aelin's birth was super, super sweet. I think Dalinar's a prick, but I also think Gavilar is also partially to blame. Sorry. Because he's the one that's like encouraging this behavior in Dalinar. He's like using him like a tool, so that's way worse. Also, Renarin deserves better. Like just skipping over his birth. I don't like the way Dalinar thinks about it. He deserves better. Moving on to Dalinar in the current day though, I don't have a lot of thoughts on him. We'll get to the reveal at the end of this part, but I don't really know about the fact that like the only people that seem to agree with my assessment of Dalinar are Lift, who is growing on me, admittedly, and Sadeas. Not a good combo. Not good company to be in. For Shallan, I just want to give her a hug. She needs a hug. She's falling apart. I want to just make her sit down and talk about her problems and just really listen to her and just let her talk through what's going through her head in this whole, like, I don't know how to be me. I don't know what I want. She just needs somebody to let her talk. I'm slumping a little because this is like a weird angle. Sorry. She just needs support. She's not getting. Speaking of Shallan, her and Yasna, not a big fan of their dynamic this book. Every time they interact, it's so adversarial and like confrontational. Nah. For Yasna though, I mean, like, I think the thing that I liked about her, I think she had like one perspective in this section. And I really, really love all those moments of like characters that betray gender norms. So the fact that she has like a guy she's talking to that like is acting to be a woman, pretending to be a woman so that he can like study and read and write. Love it. Also, her entire conversation with Amaram was so good, and I disagree with her analysis. She said something like, but my first instinct was to insult a woman that was in relation to him, which isn't true. She insulted him directly. He made it about his mother. But oh god, it was so good. Moash, I don't have anything written for Moash. I feel like I should have thoughts on Moash, but I don't. I think he strikes me as the kind of person that's like, I see everything wrong in my country and I'm gonna run away instead of trying to fix it. And I understand why. So like he's starting to side with the listeners because he's like, my people have screwed up, I'm gonna side with these people. And I think that's a valid option. It's not the option I think is the best, but I get it. So he tried to fix things, couldn't fix things, so now he's like,
Screw it, I'm on their side now. Good for him. R'lain, bless his heart. He's really like just trying so hard. And he's so patient. And he's so forgiving. And like, I like that he recognizes that Bridge 4 is trying, but they're not there. And I think that's like it's very well done. It's very well nuanced. I'm literally in a hotel with Brandon Sanderson right now. Like, he could be next door. Sorry, this just occurred to me. He could be in the room next door right now while I'm doing this. Well, I hope he hears me, because I think he actually made R'lain a really nuanced character. Literal, word for word. And I'm not saying that I ship R'lain and Renard. I'm just saying that if they fell in love, I'd be happy for them. Moving on from that, though, Rock is just perfect, and I really liked the moment of vulnerability that Bridge 4 had in these chapters, wherever it was, where just, like, they opened up, and they, like, where Rock did that whole, hey, how many of you have come talk to me about not feeling like you fit in, because things are changing, and it's hard to deal with things changing. And it was just really beautifully done, and I love that. I love moments of men in a traditionally masculine setting opening up to each other. I think it's really beautiful. I do wish R'lain had done it, but I also understand, like, so, like, the moment, and I was, like, literally listening in the car with Ben, and Ben was like, oh, just speak up, because R'lain was like, nobody asked him how he was feeling, and, like, nobody asked anybody. I think they asked one Taft specifically, but, like, for the most part, nobody asked anyone how they were feeling. It was people choosing and volunteering to share, and so, like, I get that moment of, like, that frustration of, just speak up, everybody else is, but I also understand the, like, you want to be asked. And I get that, and I liked that moment he had with Kaladin, where Kaladin was like, hey, what's going on? I understand that it's hard, and R'lain was like, no, you don't, like, legitimately you don't tell me you do, when you don't, you have no way of knowing. And then Kaladin being like, hey, could you explain it that? It was just really, really good. I will say this was a weird shift for Kaladin in his opinion on women. He was very forward-thinking. Well, he was very forward-thinking in letting a man take on a woman's role, but he's been very reluctant in the past about women taking on men's roles. I'm very intrigued by that. I don't really have a comment. All right, fine. Let's talk about Odium. I actually really love that the Cosmere Gods, and not just in Stormlight, but in general, Cosmere Gods represent these, like, abstract concepts, but both the good and the bad of them, and it's very well-rounded, and it's like, we took this idea of honor, and we're showing you every side of it, or we took the idea of cultivation, and we're showing you how this isn't necessarily all positive. Odium himself being, passion. And it's obviously represented it as the negative side of passion, because passion, if it's unchecked, passion that's just let to run rampant, isn't good. And so I really like that. But I'm just gonna read this paragraph, this little bullet point I have. Okay, let's talk about Odium. I really love that Cosmere Gods represent abstract ideas. The good and the bad, cultivation, honor, and passion are all so fascinating. And Dalinar is still such an arrogant prick. Well, that's it then. I think that was specifically in reference to the idea that Dalinar thought he could just, like, solve it all on his own. It was like, I represent all of humanity. That moment. So yeah. I will come back to the interludes later. It's very late. I've had a long night. I would like to go to sleep, so maybe in the morning sometime. I will come back to you with the interludes, but, wow, that part... interesting. I can't say I loved the end of it, but interesting. Normally I would give you some predictions now, but I've already read on. So. Alright, see you soon. Alright, so I am back now to talk about the interludes for part 2. So let me get my notes up. I actually don't have much to say about the interludes. I thought they were interesting, but not, like, anything, like, I know how to talk about. Like, I don't know if you've ever done that where you're like, wow, that's really cool, what do I say? But that's kind of how I felt about these interludes. So, first one was Casa, who was some... I don't quite know. It was a really creepy and cool and weird section, but I just don't know what to think about it. I don't know if, like, all Fabrials have a cost like that, and it's just a case of people haven't used them long enough to, like, experience that. Or if it's the Fabrial she has was specifically
broken in some way, or if maybe she's actually a soul caster, so like a soul caster using a Fabriel like has some sort of, I don't know, but it was just creepy, and the like person turning into little bugs at the end, gives me the willies. Taravangian, I want to be more into Taravangian sections. Like, I think they're interesting. I think we're learning a lot of interesting things. I'm starting to think, I know I've complained about the myriad of underground organizations, and I'm starting to think they're all controlled by him in some way. But the thing is, like, I just find myself kind of annoyed. Like, oh, what a prick, you know? And then for Veshi, the listener, at the end, she just kind of makes me sad, the same way like Seth did. Speaking of Seth, where has he been in this book? But she just kind of makes me sad. Like, she's so tragic. Like, she's desperately trying to do the right thing, and she just isn't. And also, Olam, the, like, Spren, is just the least charismatic thing. He's so bad at explaining. He's just the worst. Oh, and then, like, my other note on here is just that I'm kind of getting annoyed, and honestly, I'd even use the word bored. Like, I'm getting bored with the fact that literally every species on this planet uses the same pronouns. They all have a binary gender system, and they use the same pronouns. They're all she and he. And I think there's a moment in one of the books where Kaladin says something to Syl about, like, oh, I've just been assuming you're a woman, and she's like, I am a woman. And it's just like, but the Spren, the listeners, the humans, the other humanoid species, they all use the same pronouns, and it's like, come on, be a little creative. Like, I don't know, maybe Becky Chambers has just spoiled me with her aliens that are like, we have 3 gender species, and all of our people are gender fluid, and, you know, those kind of things where it's like, maybe I've just been spoiled, but like, I don't know, Sanderson could get a little more creative with the genders in his world. Why, you know, why do non-mate form listeners need boobs? There was like literally a moment where she's like, her breasts, smaller than they normally would be, or smaller in any form that isn't mate form, and it's like, why do you have them at all? Like, I just, be a little more creative. I don't know, I'm just, Also, I feel like there's something really interesting. Well, I guess, no, never mind. I was gonna say with this Spren, well, we haven't met Bliss, and we don't know what pronouns they use, do we? I think it's she, but I don't know for sure. Ivory uses he, him, and is like a masculine humanoid form. Syl uses she and is a masculine, or a feminine humanoid form, and then you have Pattern who uses he and is, bless its heart, delightful. Honestly, I love all of this run, but Pattern is probably my favorite. I say that right now, it might change. I don't know, Ivory has a lot of, is that my, oh, there's a little wisp of hair, sorry. Ivory is honestly fantastic too, but we just don't get nearly enough of him. But Pattern, love that little guy. Anyway, that's all of my thoughts on part 2 of, I'm gonna figure that out later. Those are my thoughts on part 2 of Oathbringer. You know, I could have been holding the book up the whole time, but it's back there. If you are enjoying this, feel free to drop a like, hit subscribe so you can follow this series, and also maybe check out the channel to see some of the other non-Stormlight content I do. Or check out our podcast to see specifically Wheel of Time related content. And if you're something inspired to do so, leave a like down below. Let me give you a specific question. Leave a comment below. I put this on Twitter and did not get enough engagement, so I want you to, down below in the comments, tell me which Spren is the hottest and why you think that. So we've got Ivory, Pattern, Bliss, Syl, the Stormfather. Plus, if you want to include those weird, creepy ones, the one creepy one in the tower, maybe. Yeah, leave it. Hey, if you want to use some of the other one, if you want to be like, look, I'm just really into creative creation Spren, go for it. Unless you say Fear Spren, and then I don't know what to do about that. But yeah, in the comments, tell me which Spren you think is the hottest. Thank you. Defend it to the death. because this is the internet, and if you have an opinion, you are right. Everyone else is wrong. Okay? Alright, I will see you guys soon with my part 3 video. Bye.